Welcome back to the quarterfinals of DreamHack Open, live from Stockholm in the Globen Arena. We have 2 quarterfinals down, 2 to go. But before we get into the next couple of games, guys, we've seen 2. What are your thoughts so far on the first quarterfinals? Nathanius, I'm looking at you.
Well,
not you, Jeff. Not you.
Well, you see, one of the players won more games.
you know, they say in the game of football, the player with the most points generally wins. And in StarCraft 2, killing your opponent usually means you've won. 4GG did a really good job of that against MMA, to say the least.
I am so happy you are with us, Nathanius. Jeff, you've watched the games, you've casted one. How are you enjoying the quarterfinals more so?
Well, I don't know. The most 2 recent quarterfinals were pretty terrible series. Sue taking care of business.
Yep.
Very anticlimactic. It's building up to, I want to say better times ahead, but then it goes to the other quarterfinal where it's 4GG really taking care of business. MMA unceremoniously is put down. And then that sets up Sue versus 4GG. Do I think it's going to be any different? I want to say yes. I hope so. The caster in me is obligated to tell fans at home it's going to be the best series ever. But truthfully, probably not. Sue's going to monster mode on him.
Well, I think we can kind of jump on what 4GG said in his winner's interview. He said, well, you know, if I'm going to compete with this guy, I actually need to play a perfect game, which is obviously going to be very difficult against a player like Sue. But we can go ahead and take a look at the bracket just to confirm the results that we've already seen so far today, and also have a look at the next couple of games that are coming very shortly here. herO versus Sacsri is going to be our next one, with, of course, Sue versus 4GG up in the first semi-final. 4GG and Sue, by the way, qualifying themselves for DreamHack Winter. They are now the 17th and 18th players, respectively, to play at the end tournament come November for DreamHack Winter.
Bad news bears for the other guys that Sue's in there now.
Yeah. Everyone's sad now.
That becomes a really hard tournament all of a sudden. I mean, it was already hard, but... you know, Sacsri very quietly also undefeated in this DreamHack.
Right.
Just quietly.
Has not been streamed on the main stream yet.
Yeah.
Just beating True, which is no small feat at all.
That's actually huge.
Very good.
That's actually huge.
He's gone through Lenok 2-0, Golden 2-0, 4GG 2-0 as well, and True 2-0, undefeated.
Wow. You know what?
3 top-notch Zergs, 2-0.
That's a lot of good Zegs in this tournament, actually. It's just too much to cover. And, yeah, definitely another threat for the finals as well. We'll have to wait and see what his ZVP is like, because that obviously hasn't been tested yet.
And herO has only dropped a single map all tournament long here. So 10 wins, 1 loss. 10 wins for Sacsri, 0 losses. 2 players who seemingly are undefeated here.
The Kespa
but
guys
they have to lose this next one,
What
Jeff.
are the Kespa guys in total? I mean, minus Classic. I guess the other 3 are 30-1. Right?
No,
pretty
you're right.
good.
You're right. You're right.
Kespa seem to be doing
Not
it right.
great. herO dropping a map. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, pretty trash.
He's let the team down there.
Classic already out of the tournament before the round of 8.
Yeah.
You know?
So herO versus Sacsri. Are we looking more so on the side of herO here?
Yes.
Who is a 2-time Industry Masters champion.
Absolutely.
Looking to qualify for DreamHack Winter. Sacsri, though, is a DreamHack champion himself. He did win DreamHack Valencia just a couple of months ago. But outside of that tournament, and then kind of not really looking at his undefeated run here today, what else has he really achieved?
Nothing.
Not much at all.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything. You know, he's a great player, but he's a player that we don't see that much of outside of like his DreamHack achievements. So I'm definitely giving herO the favor. I mean, he's just so solid. He's a Kespa, he's a top Kespa Protoss. He's done very well there, and I feel like it's going to be very hard for Sacsri to make it happen.
Well, for a regular, viewer that's watching, you look at Sacsri and go, well, he's a tournament champion, and he's undefeated in this tournament. Why hasn't he achieved anything anywhere else, though? I mean,
that's a brilliant question.
Why is it so black and white?
It's the dreaded land of Korea where he is surrounded by people of that caliber. I mean, he went abroad to the previous DreamHack, and he won. And he hasn't traveled since then, I believe, to other tournaments, if I'm not mistaken, which isn't necessarily because he's like, well, I'm not good enough. It's just sometimes it's hard to get on a team that'll recognize you to send you there. A lot of those Korean organizations don't want to travel their players too much because they have busy schedules back at home. I don't know what his excuse is, but I do know that it's really hard for Koreans in the sense that there's so many damn good players. It elevates all their skill. It makes them amazing, but it also can hide them because everyone else is winning everything else.
Yep.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about CJ herO then, who is, as you mentioned, the slight favorite for this. More so, maybe more than slight favorite.
Yeah.
Pretty big favorite.
Is he going to go into this already expecting a victory here? Is he going to be coming into this very confident? Because if we look at historically, over the last 12 months or so, herO has destroyed some of the world's best Zergs.
Yeah.
And this is obviously a player who's not on that same caliber, so is this an easy game for him?
He's one of the top performers in Pro League. I think he's consistently been among the top Prodosses of all the Kespa players. I always like herO. He's a fun guy to watch play, and I guess, from the Terran perspective, from what I see, he's a very strong player. He's easily my pick for this match.
Kind of a special note, too, to make an addendum. Sacsri, I forgot, actually left the Kespa teams and is on My Insanity, so I don't know.
He actually has no excuse. He actually has no excuse. Yeah. Is he in WCS EU?
He's tried to qualify a couple of times. I think
that
he
is
played
so
in Challenger
strange.
once.
Why do you think he's doing so well in these kind of tournaments, but fails in qualifying for WCS EU?
And he's doing really well, by the way, right now. Just 2-0 true.
That's actually ridiculously good.
He's one of those weirdos that actually plays better when he's not at home on his own computer.
I had those numbers all wrong. He's not the Kespa guy. But moving into herO, herO is a player that has been traveling. He has won a few IEMs, or at least a couple. Earlier this year at Katowice, we saw him lose in the finals for $100,000. Winner takes all, which is insane. But since then, he hasn't slowed down. Even in Korea, he's considered one of the absolute best Prodosses, top 5.
Yep.
And he does it with swagger. He's made a fan out of me since the very beginning. I think back even to the team, the Pro League, the actual team league that went on. He was one of the coolest guys to get in that booth because he would smile, win or lose, but he had the punk smile. They're you got me this time, but I'll get you next time.
Yeah,
it really made it feel awesome.
Yeah.
And then his gameplay itself, it's pretty typical manufactured Kespa. Very clean mechanics, well executed, timed out builds. There's no mistakes that way. There's no MC free flow stuff going on there. But then they have the balls of steel. They'll be game 2 proxy gates.
Yeah.
You scout at game 1, but team 2 you wouldn't expect it. They have that killer instinct, and he's a scary opponent in a best of 3 especially because he's the guy who's looking to capitalize on your mistakes. It's gonna be really hard to beat him. He's the favorite.
He's got a lot of experience too. The multiple Intellect Stream Masters tournaments that he's played in, all the qualifiers that he played in there as well, playing throughout the Korean grind to actually qualify for these tournaments. And he's no stranger to big events. Of course, the $100,000 winner-takes-all tournament. He's qualified for BlizzCon. And he really wants more than anything to qualify for DreamHack Winter 2, another big tournament that's not that far away. So it's more so, when I look at herO, more than just this game right now, it's qualifying for DreamHack Winter, it's being the champion of this tournament, more so than just beating Sacsri.
And he doesn't have a weak matchup. I mean, his PVZ is phenomenal, but talk about a well-rounded guy. I mean, Sue's stealing the show in terms of the favorite, but I guess nipping at his heels has to be herO as your second favorite to win this whole tournament. He's a lot of people are already saying Sue herO, and I think that's completely justified.
Yeah, I think herO might be, when I look at all the players that are left, he's the only guy that I think here can actually beat Sue in the finals if they get up there. herO is been playing on that top level, and even though Sue is arguably at the very top based on his performance in the GSL and even this tournament, anyone else beating him, I'm pretty hard-pressed to believe that.
What do you think about the support that Sacsri's going to have coming into this? Of course, he's here with his team. There's a lot of My Insanity here supporting him. And then if you think of the flip side of this, herO, who's really here supporting him? Obviously, there's no other CJ members here. The other Kespa players that he traveled here with are almost directly competing with him because you've got Sue on the other side of the bracket. You've got Classic, who's obviously not going to help herO right now in assistance to Sue here. Can that assist Sacsri in looking at a potential sneaky victory here?
Maybe. I mean, for me, it's not quite the super popular thing to say, but when Koreans travel abroad, they are pretty collective and homogenous. They kind of, Sue, Smix, tweeted out a picture even just yesterday about kind of how funny it was that they were all just huddled together in the corner together. And what that usually means for competition is, no, there's going to be a few guys that won't necessarily give them information, but the other 9 guys that are out or are friends with him, they will. They'll be like, hey, I played a couple games against him, here's what he did. I know someone who trains with him, here's what he did. They all do that, information with each other. More so against the foreigners because they have no idea about most of the foreigners, and they need to have some idea against some of these guys because they're pretty good. And they have a little extra added embarrassment if they lose to a foreigner. But even with Koreans, they know each other very well, and they communicate all the time. It's a big part of the difference between Koreans and non-Koreans. Non-Koreans don't do that nearly as much. The teammates will do it. But European scene's a little bit better about this, but a lot of times you won't see foreigners go over to other guys and say, hey, this is exactly what he did. In fact, it's kind of frowned upon. It's different ideals in competition. One story that kind of comes to mind for me even is I remember at Home Story Cup, I sat next to Stork, actually, and I watched him practice, mostly because I was interested in seeing him practice, but I played my games next to him for like an hour, and then I realized he was playing Scarlet, and I went to Scarlet and I said, hey, I saw him play a bunch of PVZs. Would you like an idea of how he plays? Now, a lot of people would look at that and say, that's really dirty. I didn't do it with the intent of stealing ideas, but at the same time, I wanted to help out my buddy Scarlet. And she's like, no, I don't want to know anything. And she kind of gave me a look like, don't try to be dirty. And I was like, hey, this is okay. They do it to us. You know, but she ended up going on to beat him anyways, which is kind of a cool story for her. But the point is, outside of Korean culture, I guess, it's looked a little bit more down upon. You don't trade information that way, which holds us back to a certain extent.
All right, well, let's talk a little bit about Sacsri's style. You were at Valencia, and you commentated him, you watched him play.
Couldn't say his name for the whole tournament. Yeah.
What, apart from his name, what stood out about him? What made him the player that he was? How was he able to win that tournament? Why did he overcome MC in the finals? What was the thing that, when you look back to that tournament, you say, that was Sacsri at Valencia? He was the guy that wasn't meant to win, right?
He reminded me a lot of kind of, this is almost a cop-out, but what you see come out of KESPA organizations, which is just absolutely rock-solid Zergs. He was not flashy. He did not do incredibly strange things. He did all the middle-of-the-road, well, you know, good and fine things, scouted properly, saw what was coming, countered it, rinse and repeat, over and over again. And he has, again, the standard, very good mechanics, very good execution, didn't seem to get rattled. He didn't really get tilted in that tournament at all. Yeah. And when he actually reminded me a lot of Patience. Every interview, they're like, oh, you're doing great. Nobody knows who you are. What's going on? He's just like, I like to play StarCraft. Like, you know, like every time. Patience has come a little bit out of his shell now, by the way. Speaks great English. But for that tournament, that was Sacsri. He was very quiet, just kind of cool. All
right, well, Moonglade, talk to us a little bit about herO, though. So obviously a lot of people watching this do know a lot about herO, but maybe if there are a couple of people that don't know him. Plays in Pro League.
He does
plays
play
for CJ.
He's pretty much the ace of CJ.
What is herO then? So in a similar answer to what Jeff said, what is herO for you?
Well, he's a KESPA player, but he's the top of the line KESPA player. He's the guy that represents CJ, puts him on the map. He's the guy that carries him in ace matches. He's the one that puts him on in the scoreboard for Pro League. He's a core member of that team, and he's one of the biggest personalities of KESPA too, because he is a good-looking guy. He does show a lot of personality. Like he's an all-around great player, and he does play a very solid style. He doesn't do too much flashy, but he does have his ways. For instance, against Zerg, he does love sort of like his Phoenix openings. He likes going Phoenix into Colossi against Zerg. He likes to play that very solid style, but he doesn't do anything crazy, like nothing that I feel like Sacsri could really look at and be like, okay, I'm going to take full advantage of your style.
So where can Sacsri maybe find a way to get into this guy's head, get into his strategies, Nathanius? Is he going to be looking at exploiting certain things that are risking his own game, such as skipping a roach one, for example, speeding up his economy? Nathanius.
Come on, Nathanius.
This is where the Zerg and the Protoss players look at me and they're like, please answer this question.
I don't think so.
Nathanius?
herO's not like a two-base timing attack guy, but he is I'm going to leverage something at you to get an advantage.
Thank you, Jeff.
Saved you.
I saw it. It's actually, he can just defend, absorb, and respond. That's what Zerg should do a lot of the times.
All right. Yeah. Well, it looks like the game is ready. So Nathanius and In Control, please take this one away. Let's find out who's going to the semis.
All right. Thank you, Apollo. Guys, we are back. I know there's been a lot of downtime, and some people are having some questions about it. One of the cool things about DreamHack is it's not just a StarCraft 2 tournament. It's in this case, World of Warcraft, CSGO, Hearthstone.
There's a lot of tournaments here this weekend.
So we got to share that stage, folks. So you got, your patience is appreciated and welcomed. But just know that we're doing the best we can to stay to schedule as well. It's not like we're like, gosh, I could go for an hour break.
We're not really freeballing it that much.
No, not really. So let's go ahead and get these players introduced. Top left-hand side, the Protoss out of Korea from CJ Enthus. It is herO.
herO has always been a cool guy to follow. The ace player CJ, as Moonglade was telling us. His opponent, the blue Zerg player representing My Insanity. My Insanity has a lot of successful players in DreamHack when you think about it. He is Sacsri.
Looking to perhaps score an upset, but how big an upset we'll have to wait and see. And again, I have to apologize. I was talking about Sacsri like he's one of the KESPA guys that came over. He's absolutely not. I do, as my memory kind of gets declouded, as it were, I remember the whole talk about him joining My Insanity coming over. And as Nathaniel's talked about, they've had a lot of good success here. Stardust, who's actually missing,
Yeah.
was a DreamHack champion. Well, when I say missing, by the way, I mean missing from this tournament.
Yeah, like Sacsri, one of Sacsri's first tournaments with My Insanity, as far as I recall, was that DreamHack that he won this year. And then I think it was one of Stardust's first tournaments with My Insanity that he took DreamHack Summer last year. But herO, he's a multiple-time champion. He's not one of the Kespa players that you look at and you say, well, you know, is he prepared for traveling and playing in tournaments? Because this has been the downfall of some other guys, like Cure recently, who played his first non-Korean tournament, and I would say other players like Trust have had difficulty playing outside Korea, but herO has already had lots of success, and I don't think that that's one of the things to look at as far as, you know, what's the difference between these two guys.
It's a really good point and an interesting talking point that you bring up, because it certainly is true. We've had some players go abroad even, and their results just kind of plummeted. And we've had a lot of, you know, innovation makes the exodus back into Korea. And when asked why, it's because he specifically said, like, I need to play the best StarCraft I can possibly play. That's what I want to do. People talk about Jaedong. They talk about the Kespa Jaedong that was one of the absolute best players on the planet. And then a lot of his diehard fans are like, you know, with EG, he's not that guy. And there's points to be made on both sides, but it's interesting. And then there's guys that really destroy the trend, by the way, like your Violets and your Polts that move abroad and somehow get better, kinda. Especially Violet.
It actually doesn't make sense, because you look at some of the players that they beat, and you're like, well, Polt's been playing in America the last year. Yeah. And then he beats Parting. You're like, well, that doesn't really make any sense.
Well, he beats everybody. That's the thing. He does it at WCS. He does it at these international tournaments. Again, it's funny because people are like, oh, yeah, NA is so bad. And you know, certainly ladder-wise, it is the worst ladder that you can play on, I guess. Well, not technically. Anyways, I digress. The point is,
it's not where you go to train for competition.
You can train internationally. You can train on the Korean ladder, and then you can go travel to tournaments where you're still playing top-notch people and get those results. So it's kind of interesting. But getting into the game here a little bit, we see a very fast Twilight Council. It's on the right side of the base. It's semi-hidden.
These Kesper Protoss like their blinks, though, don't they? Didn't we see? It was on this map. I think I might have been joking with it about with Apollo about it yesterday. There was a match. It might have been one of herO's games, something like that. Just they like to hammer in these really heavy blink aggression without too much tech behind it.
Well, Nathanius, this is a deja vu moment. It's this exact map, this exact player, herO, and this is his build. He'll go fast blink. No gases at the natural. He'll stop at roughly 16 supply. And then what he did last time against
was
Hyun.
it 4 gates yesterday, I think? He didn't go crazy
4 or
on
5.
it.
He goes to the right side here, and he chops down the rocks, and he kind of works back and forth from there. It's a very disappointing game, because that was one of the games where, now that I remember, actually, Moonglade and I are trying to remember this, it was that game and then the Warp Prism game on Merry-Go-Round, but it was just like Hyun misresponded both times, and they ended up being a pretty bad series. This is such fast blink, by the way. It's not like this is easy to hold off. Did you just...
It's all good, man. I got a microphone micro. Don't worry. No one will ever know about that except you, Jeff.
I don't know that that's true.
Roachforn is on the way for Sacsri. He's going up to 6 gateways, though, Jeff. This is more than the 4 that I
Zergling
predicted.
gets in. It's going to scout this out, but honestly, seeing the 3 or 4 Stalkers mid-map pretty much confirms. This just, well, it gets him close to confirming it. This confirms it, but he sees those 6 gates like you pointed out, and that means that he knows what he's facing. So let's see what his
Has he started
were.
the roaches early enough? Like this Zergling, I don't even know how this guy got inside, but he saw everything. Now there's a Dark Shrine on the way.
It's not actually, like, the roaches are nice, but you can do it with Speedlings and Queens, like we saw Hyun kind of begin to do. Oh, and a Dark Shrine immediately after that. Very interesting.
Yeah, I think this, of course, it gives you a good follow-up if the Zerg player commits too much to defending against just the Blink Stalker play, and then the next thing you know, you're like, oh, I don't actually have spores, and because of the awkward defensive position you put in, I don't think he has a lair either, does he?
He does not.
Yeah, so without the tech, he
I mean, I'm checking here.
All the time.
He has some vision, but he didn't like send in a hallucination, so I don't know how he knows this. But to answer your question earlier, Nathanius, and to put a stamp on it, Sacsri just stomped this, okay? He pushed back the Protoss hard. He gets the proxy pylon.
Yeah.
There's no gas at the natural. Dark Shrine's about to finish. Yeah, there's no lair. But holy crap, did the DTs have to do a lot of damage. And they're going to have to do it from across. Oh, no, there's pylons on the left side.
There's pylons on the bottom left.
Okay.
But
So he might lose the third. He's going to have to go to each base. There has to be a lot of damage done because our Protoss player is in a lot of trouble right now.
Yeah, he's warping in Zealots defensively. herO's trying to hold this off in control. I'm sure this is a situation you're very familiar with.
Almost never Nathanius. I win every game I play.
How do you spread the DTs out in control when you're a little bit behind?
Well, there he goes. He's got one coming in. Actually, a big problem here is he can only afford the two. He doesn't have gas. The natural is just now starting to mine it, but there's so much knocking at his door. He almost has to think about warping in defensive DTs.
Yeah, he does.
The two DTs are going to make their way to the natural.
One
There's
defensive Dark Templar. He's completely walled in now.
Yeah.
The Roaches pick off one of the pylons, which also shuts down the gateway production. Now the Dark Templar split between the bases. Immediately, Spore Crawlers start up. The lair has finished, but Overseers take a little bit of time. And this is a very intense moment here for herO as he's starting to finally lose some probes, too.
Pretty intense, but mostly the DTs are going after the Spore Crawlers themselves. And as you said, the Overseers are being morphed in. So yeah, you're going to stop the Spore Crawler from coming in, but who cares? The DT at the natural is now working at the hatchery itself. If you look at the Harvester's loss, he's lost a total of 4. Not a big deal. Meanwhile, at the natural of the Protoss player, the wall's been chopped down, and probes are starting to get target fired by Sacsri. There is a 21 supply advantage, no third behind this. I'm loving this play.
Sacsri wrecked this build from herO.
You can say it. I know you want to.
He wrecked him.
There it is, Nathanius. You're allowed one. Sacsri's in an amazing position. A couple more, well, actually, Stalkers warped in outside that third, but the Harvester count is disgusting. It's 55 to 44.
This is not a fun place to be for herO. Like, you add on, what is he just adding on gateways? It's going to be like one more pump on this one.
Oh, he lost
the
wall. That's why he has to do it.
Yeah. He doesn't really have a lot going behind this.
There's not a lot of Zerg, too. Point to be made here. There's now 8 Stalkers outside the base, and Archon even joining. Mostly lanes here. They do get a pin there, though, a blink back to try and save their lives, but a couple of Stalkers will go down, and he sees, wait a second.
Once the Roaches get out, like you get a little bit better spot. Of course, one of the problems is you don't have the creeps not spread out too much further, though. And without that creep spread, before Roach speed finishes, it's a bit difficult to dance with these Protoss units.
Well, it's just a few moments here until that Roach speed does finish, but I do agree with you, Nathanius. Otherwise, it's hard to hold off. But in a second, the floodgates are going to open. 30 supply advantage is still being maintained here, and that Archon does not have Blink, as it were, so it's going to actually soak up some damage, but eventually it will get targeted down like that. The Stalker count, not super high. Also, by the way, keep in mind, no upgrades on these units. The Zerg Player 2 doesn't have any upgrades, so it's not like that's the biggest of deals, but it just means that it's another category where I can't give the advantage to the Protoss.
Yeah, not a lot of things going in favor of herO. I mean, he built that forge earlier on, not really doing anything with it. Stalkers come up once more. I like this. He's distracting him while he sends 2 DTs into the natural. There's actually no detection here, so the hatchery just focused down. This is every little bit that he can get here is so important. Is the queen close enough yet? Is there going to be a transfuse? No.
Just gets it. It does cost 2 DTs here as long as
it's a nice pickoff.
Yep,
it's a lot. It's a whole mineral line that those drones don't have access to, and of course, having the workers still alive is nice, but you can't really mine these bases much more efficiently. And now the Zerg forces, he's forced to do something about it. Road speed being done is nice, but the blink, Stalkers get away, everything else dies. herO's still way down in supply, though.
It was a nice move. Certainly, 2 DTs for an entire expansion is something that you don't look at and say was bad. The problem is, this is all following up from herO's kind of disastrous early game, or more characteristically to be put, Sacri's very brilliant early game. So that's the beginning of a comeback for herO, but I don't know. It might be too little too late. He's got a probe posturing for a third. He's warping units to the natural. There's no wall in here, by the way, so he's going to have to do straight-up combat if Sacsri chooses to take a fight here.
Well, this starting to get towards that point where he really needs the third because the main base is going to be running out of resources soon. A lot of those patches are going to start to get low, and then once you can't afford to continuously warping off these gateways, that Zerg production just overwhelms you, and Sacsri isn't really giving herO any time to get comfortable.
Knocking on that back door, looking to get in there.
Does he have like any like a good sentry backbone? Is he just going to break down these rocks and kill his natural?
He's going to try. He's up close to 50 supply now. Third does go down in the background for herO. herO knows that he's behind, and he has to take risks, and this is like a acceptable risk. We look at them and say, well, you have no way of defending that. No, not really, but if he can buy enough time with these Stalkers, there's another warping of Zealots coming in here at the third. He's just trying to earn time for himself. The problem is, this game's been simplified. Sacsri's just adding more Roach and Ling. He's not even mining the gas at his natural or his third. By the way, his natural's not even finished yet. He was kind of delayed on that. He just has all supply army, and once that gets over to the third, it's going to be so hard for herO to hold off.
Especially without without the sentries. Now
Yeah.
there's immortal production going in, and immortals are good versus roaches. But if the roaches get on top of the immortal, then it's not really it's not really what you're looking for. Okay, there he just warps in a bunch of sentries, somewhere probably back towards that natural expansion.
5 there at home.
Yeah.
One thing to keep in mind, if herO can just, I guess, forever pick off Overseers, a couple of DTs can hold off Roaches. But
Yeah.
at some point, that becomes an unreliable task.
herO's really going to try to grind this one out, and if he gets to third base, if it's just Roach Ling, this is such a low-tech army. If all he really needs after this is going to be 1 or 2 good fights, if those Immortals can be in a good spot with the force fields. But even that is still asking, I feel, for a lot of herO.
Uh-oh, trap sprung. Zergling's got this army out here. He does have Burrow, so his force fields aren't nearly as good. He's going to try to do what he can, but it's just the one Immortal. Sentry's the soft underbelly. Meanwhile, there's Stalkers out fighting mid-map against Roach as well. They're losing that fight. And this does not look good for herO.
Borrowed Roach is the slowest death that could come in. The first Immortal killed, the second one destroyed as well. And that's really the most of the backbone of this army. The Dark Templar, as you'd mentioned, being defensively very useful. And Overseer does finally come in to help kill that. But Sacsri's taken down every single nice, expensive, important unit. And the third base also being completely ravaged and destroyed by the Zerglings is too much.
Well said, Nathaniel. Without the Immortals and the Sentries, there's not much he can do. He taps out. And Sacsri, off the back of a very solid, well-played game, he scouts out the early Blink Stalker opening and just, really nice control with the Roaches and Lings, made sure there's no pylon to reinforce. A bit of a risk with that DT follow-up. If you only have 2 gases, DTs represent a lot of your potential warp-ins. And I guess just because Sacsri had such great response, it did not pay off.
Yeah, I mean, herO got, he got a little bit here and there, but he didn't go straight for drones. And, it's difficult for me to see as a Terran because whenever you think about Dark Templar, it's always you want to kill half the workers and be ahead. But herO went straight for the bases. I feel the drone still being there made it a salvageable situation nonetheless for Sacsri, and a bit surprising when you look at this on paper. You have Sacsri with the 1-0 lead over herO, and that's his second map drop this tournament. Not bad.
Yeah, not bad at all. And Sacsri, speaking of dropping of maps, doesn't know what that looks like yet. No one has shown him the lost screen. They could have changed the graphics on it. For all he knows, he has no idea.
He's like, did that recent patch change it? Because I actually don't know.
So, excellent game number 1 on paper. Again, going into this, I don't think we were wrong saying herO is the absolute favorite. He's one of the guys slotted to perhaps give Sue a challenge for that final. But that's one of the cool things about DreamHack and really tournaments like this at all. I mean, best of 3 is a fairly shallow set.
Yeah.
And these are all really good players. I mean, Sacsri has not, we were just joking about it, he has not lost a single game, even now through this first game with herO.
Yeah, the second map, Overgrowth, pretty straightforward map for Zerg versus Protoss, I think. We've seen just about everything on this map. I don't know if I can say it's too different from King Station.
What have we not seen on this map, Nathaniel? Take me there. Take me to that imaginative world.
I'm sure there's some guy in NA ladder that's like, I haven't seen my weird, crazy build. But as someone that doesn't really play too much Zerg,
I think you're perfectly suited for this.
It's just normal
stuff. What have we
stuff.
not seen?
Nothing.
Take your Terran brain and tell the Zergs and the Protoss what we haven't seen.
I haven't seen anyone drone rush on this map.
Max Oracles.
Max. We're going there, huh?
I want to see like 35 Overseers shut down production of an entire base. I think that's really cool as well. Why not? After 5 or 6 bases?
Why not? I mean, you kill the Protoss army once. He's banking
can't warp in.
Literally 100,000 minerals and gas, but because you have enough Overseers, some guy on Reddit, Twitter, go do the math. How many Overseers do you need to shut down 10
23.85.
To shut down 10 gateways? That's what I want to know.
Continuously
contaminate 10 gateways all game long.
23.85.
23.85.
And at that point, I believe it's 1.75 over. You can actually have changelings blocking the ramp as well.
Well,
I mean, we're talking about history
my mind
here.
has been blown, to say the least.
To say the least. So,
what haven't you seen on this map, aside from max out on Oracles?
I want to see a proxy nexus at a non-base for a recall of the entire army to sneak across the map.
You're talking about proxy nexus. That's making me think about the hatcheries that can be on this map, which we have seen, which are kind of... It's one of the, I'd say, the selling points of this map. You go to a Zerg player, you're like, play on Overgrowth because you can take your opponent's base. Yeah. And it works out surprisingly often. Or maybe not surprisingly. Maybe that's why it happens so much. It's just that
it's not a bad strategy. Nathanius, tell us about these guys, please.
Well, they both play StarCraft. They're both pretty good at the game. This guy in particular in the top right was probably first known by the non-Korean scene because he was that guy that actually said, pause, he said GLHF to Stefano to keep him from getting kicked out.
He's adorable.
I believe he was that guy. He's a good guy. He's CJ Entis' hero.
Handsome devil, by the way. As I understand, he's single, ladies or men. Take note. Lower left-hand side, his opponent recently relocating to Switzerland to live out the dream. It is my insanity, Sacsri, a DreamHack champion.
The dream.
Now, Nathanius, quick story about herO that I'm obligated to tell as the caster. Did you know that in the in the Heart of the Swarm beta, your very own In Control actually defeated herO in a PvP match?
Nice.
Can I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how impressed are you?
Did he know what oracles were? Did you just build one?
I didn't know what oracles were.
Okay.
I think it was just gateways. The maps are ridiculous. There's no
I'm mildly impressed.
Okay.
I heard there was someone, was it Flash or someone that was like they played Heart of the Swarm without knowing what any of the new units were and just won not building them? I think it was Flash in an interview.
That doesn't sound too surprising. Yeah.
He's like, I didn't know. He's like, I actually didn't build Widow Mines or any of those other units. Like, I actually just did Marine Tank and won every single one of my games in like Master League. Like,
let me take it a step further. Did you know that Flash is 22 years old?
Huh.
Does that make you feel a little bit weird that at 21?
At 21, I've accomplished so little. Flash's like been around the world, won the biggest tournaments.
I've considered a god.
I've talked about the game, praying to be as good as him.
Yeah.
Yo, what did I say, man? Okay, it's not his opponent's base, but it's a base that's not his normal base.
This is not a base to take.
It's not a regular base.
He chased him over here to block the attempt.
Yeah. I mean, this pro, I imagine, whenever I play Protoss, I always feel so clever when I do this, where I'm like, I'm going to block you a base because I can't cannon rush you. Yeah. And then I like go back home like, oh, okay, I expanded, and all of a sudden you're like, how do you have so much stuff? And then that's when you realize, a little bit too late, that your opponent has in fact taken the gold, and there's not really anything you can do about it because all you've done is actually give them the Zerg. You force them to make more money than they otherwise normally would.
Yep. And you're...
This makes me hate my life.
You're doing a pretty good job of analyzing Protoss right now because you're very astute. The pylon block of the natural is good. The pylon block of the third means that herO has no idea that what immediately happened was the gold went down. And there's like no delay here. If this probe dies or is chased off without finding the third, or I don't even know what to call it a third, it's just the gold base. It's actually the natural, I suppose. Well, anyways, if he doesn't find this, which he does, it would have been really bad. But he sees that, sees it's about to finish, like, ah, crap. That second pylon had no purpose whatsoever.
Yep. He's invested a lot of resources to delay an economy that will end up being boosted. Yeah. Anyway, now, of course, he did take his regular natural expansion. He's not going to go for some sort of super mega crazy transfer all your drones to the gold base and then go for a really fast push.
Nobody is transferring 4, and
you're just going to play with a nice economy, which is, I mean, not really many negatives to the gold base if you can get it safely this early on.
I once saw Life take both the gold bases. Doesn't that sound like exactly what Life would do?
I wasn't sure if you were about to say Life or Cats, because I've seen him do that. I've actually seen him
Cats
I've seen Cats take all of bases on the other side of the map before he takes any of his own.
Watching Cats play is a lot like taking a hallucinogenic drug and then playing StarCraft. Like this, whatever happens is a warped reality of what should happen.
My lawyers advised me not to comment on that.
He's GM on Korea. He just played an ST, took 3 games off him. It's pretty cool. Anyways, love
well,
Peruvian
people
Cats.
like Sue use his crazy builds. So
well, don't let his head get too big. We gotta keep that guy under control here.
So a Zealot is going to come over here and be like, please stop mining this gold. I don't want to be behind. And the Queen's like, okay, you have to leave now. So,
and he does have to leave.
That's he's going to dive on that creep. See, that's I would find this mildly frustrating.
Well, Zealot dies for it. It's interesting.
Nope, doesn't lose anything.
Yeah.
Technically, he loses the Zealot for free because the creep tournament doesn't even cost minerals, Jeff.
Oh, wow.
What a sick trade.
You are getting all economic on this. Soccer's going to peruse the main base, looking for a scouting overlord. Yep, our observer here showing us the roach swarm. We just see a fairly
what does herO do? What do you do, man? You're playing Protoss. Tell me what's going through your head when you realize that your opponent has in fact gone up to 3 bases, one of them being a gold, and there's nothing you can do until Warp Gate or maybe an upgrade is done. Because herO's going for Blink, but can he actually kill him? Is there too much income to actually stop?
Can he actually kill him? You guys love those questions. The answer is yes, he can. Is it likely? Probably not. There's 2 different approaches You can either ignore the gold base altogether because it mines out faster, but also the Zerg's like on edge. They're like, oh god, he's coming after me because I have the gold. So there's that approach, or there's the herO approach that we can see here where you go hyper-aggressive. Some kind of 2-base timing attack. A lot of times we see Immortals and Sentries. This time we're going to see just Blink Stalkers.
Damn, so very similar setup to the last game, except of course he's going to have that +1 this time.
Probe's
Actually,
a fake.
he's going up to 8 gateways.
This Probe's a trick. Says, hey, I was going to go take a third.
Like, oh, blast, you've stopped me from taking my third. I'll add another Forge and a Twilight. It's like, no, actually, I'm going up to 8 gates.
Meanwhile, mid-map Observer. Fight through the mumblings of Nathanius. Look towards that Observer. Not Observer, it's a Probe. Drop the pylon. And for some reason, the Zerg doesn't have the tower, by the way.
You use the word Observer, though, man. If that creep gets out just a little bit further, I think without an Observer to actually kill that, it becomes very difficult to get a good position on this base. Because those roaches don't have the speed upgrade yet. They don't. As far as I'm aware, there's not even a lair on the map. So
you're right. You're in the deep hypothetical though, because right now we have these Zerglings finding the Stalkers mid-map. The Probe and its pylon have been discovered. It's a little bit weird. He's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, his blink isn't
feeling
done
weird
yet.
about it right now. He's getting surrounded. He's like, this was maybe not a great idea.
It's like, I was supposed to kill you with this. Can you please stop hurting my units? They don't have the ability to teleport away just yet. Now they do, and they teleport away.
This is a
not a good start
beatdown. There's Stalkers. They're going to hold off over at the natural, but he's warping in defensively. He's like, well, no, wait a second. You understand? I'm supposed to be chasing you. You're supposed to be terrified of me. He recalls back home. It's a lot of Stalkers, by the way. George have to be careful, but, I mean, he's going to trade here a little bit.
Oh, does he force the Stalkers blink out to kill the roaches, but the Zerglings run in. The blink cooldown timers, passes off, but he does kill a few more of the Stalkers. And
well, this game's again been simplified for Sacsri.
Yeah, the economy is still in far enough an edge of Sacsri. As long as he's hitting his injects, he can get a lot done
the other
with
pylon.
this. Where are these Stalkers
led him
going
to the other pylon.
Oh, that Zealot weapon was cute. He still gets on top of the Stalkers, though. Well, that's also frustrating.
Cuter by Sacsri. And with this pylon being found, that means there's no warping ability over here. So the whole army of herO has to come over here and defend, and he does. Supply gap is closing a little bit. The roaches, as Nathanius pointed out, are still slow. They do not have the speed upgrade.
I think Ivory wasn't expecting to get hit in this area. The Zergling's still trying. The Mothership Core actually heads into the range of these queens. Doesn't have energy to do anything other than just be there and look nice. Burrow is coming in, but I feel Sacsri, is his economy enough to just overwhelm this? I feel like his
too
unit
much
production
Nathanius. There's some warpins coming over from that pylon. Great blink micro from herO so far. He's making it interesting.
These have been actually
He's
some
up in
dirty
supply,
blinks. Look how
in
many of
fact.
these Stalkers have no health. Wow.
GG is called out, and that was the quickest that I've been saying something to wrong. I think that was 3 seconds. I was like, there's too much Zerg, he's dead.
Well,
he's winning, he's dead.
it's okay.
He's absolutely dead.
I can't be the only person here that just says everything wrong, so...
No, you haven't said everything wrong.
I'm the Terran player. That's all good. So let's talk about that game then. What about...
Let's do that.
What about having... just move
See, you
away.
said one right thing right off the bat.
So what about that setup? Because I thought it looked really good for Sacsri. He's got extra money. Was it that dive on the pylon where those Zealot weapons? Like he lost a bunch of lings there. And then I think if he has creep connecting the gold base area, because he broke down those rocks, if he has creep tumors connecting that and is natural, the Stalkers run up and maybe Blink is still really good, but the Zerglings can jump behind him.
Kind of. I think what happened here was a couple of, we fell for the same trap that Sacsri did. We were overconfident in the fact that he's got 2 solidly mining bases on top of his main for a total of 3.
Yeah.
The initial push out was pre-blink and Stalkers were dying. The original pylon was found. Everything was leaning towards Sacsri being very confident. So confident, in fact, that he took slow roaches and he attacked the natural, killed a pylon, and then lost everything. Okay, whatever. Then he dives on a pylon and a good Zealot warp in. Stalkers blink back. They're just losing shields. Doesn't get the pylon and loses like 20 lings. Either one of these things by themselves, not game ending, but together, plus herO being ultra aggressive about pushing immediately after, meant that with his great blink micro, there was just too much Protoss.
There wasn't a lot of time, I think, to do much after that. The 2 attacks really threw away quite a few resources. Still, it's interesting to think about because if Sacsri just sits back a little bit more, he still has the economic advantage because he knows that there's no third base, right? He caught the probe that moved out there. Whether or not it was ever going to build a Nexus, he knew that he couldn't have. But still tricky. Third map's merry-go-round. This is ye old 2-base Protoss map.
Yeah, I wonder how these maps... I don't know what the veto process if they can veto that many. It used to be just one each player.
Yeah, until there were only 3, right? Then there's
No,
some weird...
just one in total, and then there's more maps they can pull from. That's what it used to be.
Oh.
But I don't know if they've changed it. It's MLG where it used to be that you both went back and forth vetoing until it was just 3 final maps.
Yeah.
They might do that here as well. I could be misinformed, but we keep seeing merry-go-round for these Protoss players. I feel like you would want... I mean, this would be one of the first ones you would veto, as opposed to, like, I keep seeing it in this series. It's interesting.
Yeah, that is a bit interesting. We're loaded in to the 3rd and final map of this series. I think it's safe to say, since now both players have lost maps, this guy, as much of a favorite as he is, we've seen a little bit of weakness from him in this series. His attacks, he's been really relying on the heavy aggression. We haven't had the long, drawn-out games, but he's been bringing on the pressure in the last game. It allowed him to tie things up. I'm interested to see what he does on this map, which is equally bad, I think, for macro Protoss play. So he is CJ Entis' herO.
Please, give me book part 2 on Sacsri.
In the bottom position, he's a blue Zerg player, and he represents...
Don't get to the meat of it. No, you got to tell me more about him.
The man who took a DreamHack and not much else. He's here fighting for the Swiss StarCraft 2 team under the banner of many other teammates who've already fallen on a quest to defeat the man who no person would ever liquibet that he would be able to defeat.
Good point.
He is my Insanity's Sacsri.
See, now that is a Nathanius opening. That's what I like to hear. Adorable guy.
This makes me wish I had like the Huck compendium of Game of Thrones player intros.
Oh, that's right. I was there. He liked that. People were all about that. Yeah, you know, I'm kind of locked up because you're saying his opponents lost earlier, and it's interesting. There's so many My Insanity players, really good ones. Kane, we saw. This was his first DreamHack. Had a pretty okay. Yeah, Jockchi made it to round of 16.
We met Blisk here, too. He's one of their...
Yeah, that guy dunked on me on the ladder recently. He's like, hey, you know the guy you played that was on the Kiwi Khaki name? I was like, yep. He's like, that was me. And he starts laughing, and I'm like, ha, 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 ha.
I love meeting people who tell me these things in person.
Anyways, no Stardust, though. I think he did the Kespa tournament, but I don't know that it interferes with this. I'm not sure. Maybe he's in Korea. Who knows? I don't know his life. Miss him, though. He's a charming guy. Good Protoss. Would have done well here. But it's Sacsri, and he wins game number 1 in pretty dominant fashion. Game number 2, he convinces the legendary caster in control, who's almost never wrong, that he's in a great position, only to die like 3 seconds later. So,
yeah, I mean, that guy's pretty much the oracle of PVZ.
He's so smart, so brave.
But him being wrong, I mean, that's just
to give you an idea of how weird it was.
It's an ass move to be wrong.
That's right, absolutely. Quick update for you guys, too, by the way. Hearthstone just finished their 2nd best of 5, so I think we're scheduled to start in about 96 hours for our stage matches, so that's really exciting.
Yeah. They don't use timers, actually, in the tournaments, so they literally
use sundials
take 5
indoors,
years.
too. Yeah,
it's pretty sick.
Artos is over there. He understands
They also don't use
technology.
Blizzard time, so they do real seconds. When we say 96 hours, we don't mean like 90 hours. We actually mean 96.
Your WCS NA commentator, Nathanius, everybody. Speed Zergling's coming out at decent numbers. There is some drones, though. So when I say decent numbers, we're not talking 20 just yet, but 6. And 6 is a little bit more than the very passive opening Zergs typically go with. 6 is hoping to accomplish something, but it can't. There's a cannon that's about to finish, a decent wall in here. Not sure what he's hoping to do.
In control.
There's like 8 or 10 Zerglings now.
Whenever I play this map against Zerg, I go for a really bad Immortal Sentry on, and I always fail. Can herO make that work on this map, or is this a map where like it's happened so much that Zergs don't really even think about it anymore?
It's Nathanius. You ask a great question.
Didn't he pretty much did it on this map against Hyun, right? Looks like he had a War Prism play.
The Crusher of Dreams.
That could have been awkward.
And nobody really like that. Zealot's kind of rare. People typically don't make that. Usually it's a probe there, but you can fight down the probe and then get through. And hopefully they don't pylon block. So kind of a cute move for Sacsri, but nothing, you know, he will have speed in a second, so it would have been nice to get in, because then it's like almost game-ending damage. So we saw a moment there that could have been devastating, but it didn't end up coming to be. I'm sorry, what were you asking, though? No, I'm being serious. I actually forgot.
So what do you like from mid-game pushes?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Because he went for like the War Prism Immortal thingy against Hyun, and
it's tough.
It worked, but you know, is Sacsri that kind of guy that's like, well, I saw that game, or
Oh, no, he's just rock solid. He's going to go, like, you know, Roachling into Hydra or Roachling into Swarm Host or Muta, something like that. Just very basic. You're not going to see anything super crazy out of him. Here on the flip side, and to your point, what do you do? Because, you know, 2-base timing attacks are so predictable. Unfortunately, you're kind of locked into that. You can't just, like, fight the meta and say, well, I'm going to go take a third. There's a reason why everybody 2-base timing attacks on here, and it's because that third is so absolutely garbage to try and take and hold.
He's already moving up to 4 gateways. I mean, he has the gas in his natural, and I would say without that, 2-base, you know, 4 gateway pushes aren't uncommon, but is there something else he can do? He's just going to take that third. Well, Jeff.
Hey, I'm pretty right sometimes, okay? He is. He's just going to take the third. It is 4 gates, but that's a fine number. He can warp in sentries. He can afford this.
I am also occasionally always right myself. Oh, yes, loses the sentry. Well, that's not fun.
In my defense, I feel like what will justify this, and I'm going to make another prediction. So I'm opening myself up to being like...
It's getting late. Let's just do it.
Exactly. Maybe this just gets trashed. He's going Twilight Council behind it. He'll have up to 4 gates. Roaches and Lings are coming out, so basically, and these aren't defensive, by the way. Don't make any mistake about that. This is to go cancel the third.
Yeah.
I am resting my ego and my integrity, basically, on the fact that we're about to witness why you can't take that third.
I don't disagree. I mean, the big Ling pushes are always nice to see. Actually, a couple of these sentries are stuck inside the main base. He lost one of the other ones earlier, and this Photon Cannon isn't done yet. So the army isn't powerful enough to fight, but without the Nexus being done either, that means no possibility for Photon Overcharge.
He's going to come out here, and lo and behold, there's Roaches behind this.
Yeah, the Roaches are what can deal with the cannon quite nicely. The Nexus, though, once that bad boy finishes, things get a little bit extra complicated. Yeah, he's got the cannon still tucked in.
I'm confident. I think I'm about to be right. Nathanius, hold on.
Oh, well, you know, getting the
so
sentries.
Much at stake here.
I think the sentries are a much nicer prize, but he still has. I mean, he can't Photon Overcharge and recall to save the sentries. I think Sacsri can get something here no matter what.
Well, he has to. He's leaning out really hard at this. Behind this, there's a lair, sure.
So there's no Photon Overcharge now. If he picks off the Photon Cannon,
was an interesting choice.
That's really cool. It's still it works, but not for the reason that I thought it would. Like
what works?
The push.
Oh, I thought you were.
I thought
you meant the recall.
I mean,
it generally does.
If the sentries don't get stuck there, and he can Photon Overcharge, and he force fields like next to the gateways and locks the sentries in with the Nexus.
Sure. Here comes Hero. He's going to try to do it. Power does die, though, so there's no warping ability out here. Sentries are exposed a little bit. Roaches getting force fielded back, though. And
the Zergling reinforcements in the back are what really helped us, because the sentries are still dying, even if the Roaches can't attack. Well, you said it. He was going to get punished really badly for taking this third base like this, Jeff.
It feels good. It really does. Normally, I don't like watching a Protoss as great as herO get absolutely donked on, but it's like, you can't do this on this map if they just make a bunch of Roaches and Lings.
So we're surprised. We're surprised that Sacsri's has he pretty much done it yet? How much more does he need to do at this point?
Well, he's not really saturating his third. A bunch of drones are coming out now. He's not going to reinforce this. The Nexus will die. That can't be stopped. And I'll tell you what, if it weren't for the fact that there's 4 gateways out on an island out here by themselves, and he had lost like 6 sentries, herO would be in a salvageable position. But with both those things being true,
+2 and Blink
it's not.
Finished, right?
He's dead. He's dead. He's down only 20 supply, or 25, which doesn't seem like much. It's not.
Well, how these zealots? Okay.
But he's just lost so much. The 5 or 6 sentries is so expensive.
Yeah, well, this War Prism is trying to be the comeback unit for herO. He's gotten a couple zealots in each of the bases. Starts a Dark Shrine, starts an Immortal. Immortals are nice. We're finally seeing from Sacsri, though, we're actually seeing Lair Tech, which... Yeah. Is he just going to sit on Roach Ling still, though?
Yeah, just gets Roach's speed.
It's pretty much been Roach Ling from Sacsri in both games, like, entirely.
That's all you need. Against a 2-base timing attack, you shouldn't go much further than that. If you tech the Hydras, that's the absolute way to shut it down, but... there's a soft interim period there where it's like your Hydras are slow, they don't have range, and there's only 6 of them, but you've spent more money than you should have, so it's kind of dangerous. If you just keep going Roach Ling, as long as you have detection and decent saturation at the 3 bases, you should be able to take on most of what you face.
Yeah, with the creep spread moving out like this, and having Roach speed, it just seems to be a little bit too much. Like, losing the sentry. Well, losing the sentries earlier, like he has sentries, but they don't have a crazy amount of energy. Yeah. Like even with all of them selected, the observer showed us he couldn't afford hallucinations even. So that means none of them actually have enough for 2 force fields.
Yes, a little bit of a. He's moving around the right side. He's trying to get a full flank on this. The Zergling peeks in and sees that the whole army's mid map, and there is some detection now. So the DT tech is it's just too expensive. He can't even risk it. You send in some DTs with that detection and they don't do anything.
He's setting himself up to try to surround this army. I would assume as soon as it steps on creep. It's still difficult to engage Protoss forces like this normally. The natural kind of blocked off. Zerglings can't do much there, but herO's going to step forward. This is his moment.
Oh, wow.
I think this position is pretty nice for force fielding next to that hatchery and that little ravine there, though.
Sacsri's going to abandon the third.
Yeah,
I would almost like to see
easily.
herO recall back. Oh, he doesn't have a mothership here. Okay, well, never mind.
That complicates things. Roaches get into the natural. Roaches trying to squeeze up that ramp into the main base, of course. Not an infinite number of force fields, though. He's basically in this base trade scenario, as it were. He's going to try to just knock everything down. Without the mothership core, you can't really go home.
herO only down 10 supply, gets in here. He's hitting before these spine crawlers can finish. Force fields off most of the army at the ramp. The natural is dead, and he is above the ramp, is our Zerg player Sacsri. So things are getting bad at home for herO. And by the way, there's the motion core with 200 energy. That's kind of weird.
Where? I don't even know where that's.
It's inside the main. That was.
It's just chilling there.
But herO's kind of doing this. The natural's dead. He's going to walk up into the main. Are there drones outside? There's larva, so
there's some units moving around in the center. I'm not sure if he actually has drones out. He's got a few.
God.
There are a few. He has enough money to start a hatchery.
Next thing to ask, is there overseers? Let me check the units tab. There are none right now.
No, the layer's still up. Are there any Dark Templar on the map still? There's not enough gas to warp into DT yet. He needs
that
gas.
He's
got enough. He's got enough now.
He just got enough. Is the Dark Shrine still around or did it die? I think it died. It died.
Yeah, no Dark Shrine. Well,
if he warps in one DT, there's no way to make detection. He dies.
He lifts up 8 probes in this warp prism. He's like, all right, sayonara,
These games
suckers.
are so weird.
We've had a lot of PvZ base trades, man.
We have.
I guess that's just kind of one of those things in PvZ that happen a lot nowadays.
And this warp prism is the MVP for.
There's like no buildings. Sacsri built some stuff. He's got this. Okay. Whew.
He actually doesn't have enough inside the main with the photon overcharge.
That was scary.
The roaches are getting edged out, but even if not, the contingency plan here is great. There's probes inside the warpers. We can just go rebuild.
Yeah, if he doesn't lose the Nexus, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, there's just not enough to do that, you're right.
He will eventually. There's enough resources there to build a couple more probes. And
Holy cow!
Yeah, I think this army comes back. I think herO, he's pretty much done it. No, I guess if he kills the Nexus, things change.
No,
he can't afford to build another
here's one. There's no way he can lose.
Okay.
After these units that are going to be trapped in the main are dead, it's over, and the writing is on the wall. Sacsri taps out. herO survives a bonkers game. He loses the third. Guys, I'm still right on that, by the way. That was wrong. He's behind indefinitely. Goes Dark Shrine, doesn't do anything with it because he can't. And then we get to the base trade scenario, and he just outplays the Zerg player. Excellent play.
What a wild end to that, because the series starts off, we're like, Sacsri's the underdog. Then he takes first game. We're like, well, he's pretty good. Second game, herO wins. Like, makes it, starting to fit a little bit more in line with the expectations. Then the third game, huge early lead I felt for Sacsri. You shut down 3 gateways worth of production, and you kill that third base. You kill dozens of sentries. You kind of reveal the whole hand of the Protoss too, because you see like the blink. You kind of know what's coming your way, but then you still can't actually stop the push. Is there anything, was there an opportunity there for Sacsri to do something else other than that big counter?
Absolutely. We talked about him going for the potential surround in the middle of the map. He had the bigger supply, he had the bigger army. It's a little bit more dicey, of course, because, again, great force fields kind of segmenting off a bunch of the units and then chopping down the rest of those immortals could mean certain doom. The counterattack wasn't wrong, I don't think. I feel like he should have probably killed the natural, sniped the Nexus, and then bucked out and come back and maybe tried to fight. It gets risky there. But either way, let's hear from the hero of the match, the guy that won it, came back from behind and gave us a really exciting series. Over to Smix with herO.
Oh, congratulations, herO, on your victory over Sacsri, the 2-1 victory. You must be really happy about that, as you have secured your spot at DreamHack Winter by getting top 4 here at DreamHack Open Stockholm. The first thing I want to talk to you about is yesterday when I interviewed you after Hyun, you mentioned that you purposely went for some aggressive builds because you preferred to end the game earlier on against him. But in your first 2 games against Sacsri, you also went for some aggressive fast blink builds, and I'm wondering, is that because you aren't as confident in your late PvZ, or was that just your personal stylistic choice? 어저께 고석현 선수와 이기고 난 다음에 인터뷰했을 때 그냥 일부러 경기를 일찍 끝내고 싶어서 그렇게 전략을 선택했다 이렇게 얘기를 했었는데 이번에도 삭스리 선수와 만났을 때 첫 두 판에서 약간 좀 공격적인 전략을 선택했어요. 그게 후반에 가는 게 좀 자신이 없어서 그렇게 했나요? 아니면 그냥 그렇게 하고 싶어서 했나요?
최근에 저그전 장기전을 좀 많이 연습해봤는데 진짜 좀 답이 안 나오는 것 같아가지고 좀 초중반에 심리전이랑 움직임을 통해서 좀 유리하게 갈 수 있도록 하는 빌드로 요새 좀 많이 연습하고 있고 요번에 드림핵에서도 그런 모습을 많이 보여드린 것 같아요.
So he says, recently I've been playing as many, I guess, macro games against Zerg. And as I've been playing these games and practicing, I just don't have an answer for what I'm supposed to do. I'm just having a really hard time. But I've been trying my best to, in the early mid-game, to use as many mind games as I can and make the correct decisions based on feeling out the opponent to try to get some advantages to go into the late game and have an advantage. So I'm trying to do that here at DreamHack, so I'll try to continue to show great games for you guys, as he does have a lot of Zerg opponents ahead of him. Now, herO, you've already defeated Life, Hyun, and Ret, and now you just beat Sacsri, so you've shown that you have great PvZ. In order to get to the grand finals, you still have to play another Zerg player by playing the winner of Jaedong or Solar. Based on knowing your next, I guess, who you have to play in the next match, it'll be one of those two players. What do you feel about your chances on making it to the grand finals? 이제 지금까지 저그전을 엄청 많이 보여줬잖아요. 근데 또 저그 선수를 만나야 돼요. 이재동 선수와 아니면 솔로 선수를 만나야 되는데 이제 그걸 알고 난 다음에 결승전에 갈 확률이 얼마나 높은 것 같으세요?
또 저그를 만나게 되는데 다음에 저는 지금 컨셉 자체가 제 게임을 많이 보여줄수록 상대가 말리는 그런 좀 힘들어하는 컨셉이기 때문에 저는 많이 할수록 더 좋은 것 같아요. 지금.
So I do have to play another Zerg player in my next match. Lately, the concept that I've been going for is that the more games that I play, I feel like I'm just trying to make it as more difficult for my future opponent. So that's the concept I'm going for. I hope that it's kind of more pressure for them and burden on them to kind of step it up in defeating me after I've defeated all these Zergs on the path to get here. Now, last but not least, herO, this year you've had a great year. You started off great in February by winning Sao Paulo, IEM Sao Paulo. After that, you got 2 runner-ups at the Kespa Cup as well as at the IEM Katowice. After getting those 2 runner-ups, I'm sure you're really thirsty to get another first-place finish. What would it mean for you to win here at DreamHack Open Stockholm? 이제 이번 년에 엄청 잘했잖아요. 뭐 2월 달에는 우승도 했고, 그다음에 그 다음에는 2등을 2번 했어요. 캐스파컵에서도 했고, IM 카드비스에서도 2등했고, 그러면 약간 1등을 다시 잡고 싶은 마음이 클 거 아니에요. 그래서 만약에 여기서 우승하게 된다면 얼마나 그 의미가 얼마나 그냥 좋을 것 같으세요?
최근에 준우승도 많이 하고 광탈도 하고 그래서 심적으로 많이 안 좋은데. 이번에 좀 힘든 드림핵이고 드림핵 처음이고 그래서 의미가 되게 클 것 같고 우승컵 드는 그 맛을 또 느껴보고 싶어요.
So he says, recently I have had a lot of runner-ups, and I just personally feel like I haven't been playing as at my best. And so coming here into this DreamHack, this is my first DreamHack. It's also a really difficult DreamHack. So I feel like because of that, the worth of winning this DreamHack is even greater. And I just really want to feel the sensation of holding a trophy cup in my hands again. So best of luck, herO, in the semifinals against whoever you face, Jaedong or Solar. And speaking of that, that's going to be our last quarterfinal match of the day. So stay tuned after this short break.